Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Jose, or JJ Cava, however you wanna call me. Today we're gonna be talking about the story of Klete Keller, the man who was an Olympian medalist. He went from being one of the top swimmers in the US, being in the same team as Michael Phelps, to being one of the extremists who stormed the Capitol. I wanted to post this video a couple of days ago at the anniversary of the second year since the criminals that stormed into the Capitol, but I guess I'm gonna do it now. So basically I'm gonna tell first the story of his career, right? Like how he was as a swimmer, and then I'm gonna talk about the stuff that led up to him being one of the people in the far right that decided to storm the Capitol. Klete Keller was born in March 21st, 1982 in Las Vegas, but he was raised in Phoenix, Arizona. His parents, they met in college. They were both athletes. His dad did basketball and his mom was on the swimming team. So he was raised as an athlete too. And since the very beginning, he showed potential. By the time that he graduated high school, he had already been in a lot of competitions. He had a bunch of achievements, medals, whatever. I'm gonna put on the screen because it's a lot and I don't know anything about swimming, so yeah, you can read it if you want to. But to me the most impressive thing was that the summer after he graduated high school, he went to the Olympics and he won a bronze medal, which, you know, it is impressive. Like, you and me, we don't compare. We're little bitches compared to him. So he graduates high school in the year 2000, and right after he goes to the University of Southern California, where he obviously joins the swimming team. And then after finishing his second year of college, he gets an offer to start swimming professionally, so he decides to drop out and do that instead. He joins a team called Club Wolverine, which I don't know anything about swimming, but apparently it's one of the best ones. While he was in there, his coach was named John Urbanchek, I think that's how you say it, I don't know. But basically he became like his father figure, and I don't want to make this video that long, so I'm not gonna focus on his career a lot. But basically he was in the club from 2002 until 2008, and during that time he was in a bunch of competitions. He went to the Olympics twice, in 2004 and 2008. And again, I'm gonna put his achievements and competitions in the screen so you can read it if you want to. But basically he swam in the biggest competitions that there was, and whenever he was in swimming teams, he was partnered with the biggest names that there is in the swimming community, like Michael Phelps, Ryan Lodge, I don't know how to say it, and Peter. So basically he was one of the top swimmers in the US for almost a decade. And then after he won the gold medal in 2008, he was only 26 years old, but he decided to retire after that. For the rest of the video, I'm going to talk about what people that work with him or that had a relationship with him had to say in interviews or in court cases. So yeah, from what I found, he had problems his whole life. Even though he was a great athlete from, you know, very young, he still had problems with his parents. According to his teammates and coaches, he had family issues since he was very young. Basically, his parents didn't believe in him. Even though he was doing great, even though he had already proved himself when he was in high school, his parents still didn't have any faith in him. There's a story that his coach, John, or that guy, the one I put on the screen, he said that before they started working together in 2002, when he decided to drop out of college, he had already reached out in 1999. Klete Keller was a senior in high school, and the coach, John, saw potential in him. So he talks to the parents, and then they agree to meet him in their house. They have dinner, they talk over dinner, and he tells them that he's really interested in him, and that he wants Klete to go to Michigan so that he can compete to represent the state. But instead of being excited for his son, the mother decides to pull the coach aside and tell him, don't waste your money. He's not gonna make it through college. So basically his teammates say the same thing, like his parents treated him in a way that whatever he did was never good enough for them. And from the parents' perspective, they also had done interviews, and the mom, she 100% agrees with it. Like, she says that she regrets it. The dad, he denies everything. Besides the issues that he had with his parents, he also faced problems in other areas in his life, especially after he retired in 2008. He had such a hard time transitioning into normal everyday life, and also a month later, after he retired, he decided to marry someone named Carrie Cheryl. They're both pretty open about the relationship problems that they faced, you know, when they were dating and when they were married. And they started pretty early on. She said that Keller always had problems with his mental health, and when they were dating, there was a bunch of events that made it clear. For example, there was one time where she was driving down a highway, he was in the passenger seat, and out of nowhere, he unclips his seatbelt and tries to jump out of the car because he believes that there was a taxi following them. Thankfully, nothing happened, but there was a bunch of events that were similar to that. And she tried to reach out to the coaches. She told them about the situation, and they all dismissed her. They didn't take it seriously and just said that he was probably stressed from being an athlete. And she also knew that she wasn't able to rely on the parents, so she pretty much had to deal with it by herself. She had to find ways to help him out by herself. And also, because of his mental health problems, he was unable to find a job. So the couple was struggling very hard financially. And Cheryl didn't know how bad it was until 2010, when an accident happened. We don't know what the accident was exactly, it doesn't really matter, but basically they had a 10-month-old daughter together, and she gets into an accident where she needs stitches. So the mom drives her out to the hospital. So Cheryl, who was pregnant with twins at the time, she drives her to the hospital, to urgent care, to get everything taken care of. And that's when she finds out that the family doesn't have any type of health insurance anymore. She didn't know this because Monday through Friday, Klete would drive around the city and pretend that he was working. So she thought that everything was normal. That's one of the biggest fights that they had because she had no idea that was happening. The next big issue that they had has to do with self-harm. So trigger warning, if you don't want to hear that, you can just click on this timestamp or whatever it's called. Yeah, you can skip ahead. So the whole accident happened in 2010 during Halloween, and then a month later he decided to get in his car and breathe in the fumes from it. So he attached a hose from the car pipe or whatever it's called, I don't know anything about cars, and attach it to the window so that he can breathe the fumes in. Thankfully, he changed his mind. He said that he got scared from the sounds that the car was making, so he gets out of the car and he goes to talk to his wife. He was purple in the face, and he was crying. I'm gonna put on the screen the exact words that she used to describe the incident, but basically he had taken a life insurance that covered suicide, and he wanted to give that money to his family. And then after he tells her what happened, he recognizes that he needs help. The couple tries to make it work, but he was still going from job to job. He was still unable to find something stable. So in 2014, they decide to finally get divorced. And then the day after he gets divorced, he gets fired from his job, something that he had for a couple of months. So it was going really shitty for him, you know? And then also in 2014, he went to a podcast called Olympic Talk. I'm gonna put a couple quotes in the screen that I thought were interesting, where he talked about why he thought that he was struggling in real life. Basically, he didn't have a realistic expectation about how it was gonna be once he went out. So basically in 2014, he had no job, no wife, not a house. So he has no other option than to stay with some of his family members. And from what I was able to find, 5 days later, after the divorce is over, he says that he wants to see the kids again, and she says no until he gets help. And before I keep talking, again, trigger warning, if you don't want to see it, I'm going to talk about DV and also, SA. So, go here if you don't want to see them. So basically, instead of getting help, one night he decides to go back into the house. He breaks in, he gets physical with her, he pins her against the door, and he threatens to outwork her. Thankfully, he doesn't actually do it because she tells him that she's gonna call the cops. So he ends up leaving. And after that happens, she decides to change all the locks in the house. And a couple months later, she decides to sue him for child support because he wasn't paying anything. And the judge tells him that he needs to pay $199 a month. And he needs to have a full-time job. So Keller finds a job in North Carolina. He decides to move there. But because he had to pay child support and the job wasn't paying that much, he was unable to find a place to stay. So for almost a year, he had to live in his car. He slept in Walmart parking lots, and also he had a gym membership so that he can go shower and work out. So this was pretty much rock bottom for him. He didn't have family, he didn't have friends. The gold medals that he won in the Olympics, he had to sell them. He was unable to see his kids, and he sued for joint custody twice, but both times he failed. And then in late 2015, his ex-wife got married with someone else, And because the kids were spending time with that man instead of with Klete, they ended up considering him a father figure, and Klete started getting called Uncle or Mr. Klete. So, everything was happening all at once. So he started building resentment, and he was angry all the time. Whenever there was any type of communication between him and his ex-wife or the kids, he was aggressive. He would call them names or just being mean to the kids for no reason. So because of that, Cheryl and her kids started going to therapy. In 2016, Keller goes back to college to finish his degree, and then in 2017 he moves to Colorado Springs, which is where the family was staying. He moved there without a job, but he gets a real estate license and he starts working in a residential real estate firm. And at this point, it seemed like he was doing good. Like he was finally out of the depression and he was finally turning his life around. His co-worker said that he seemed like a happy guy, and he even started a serious relationship with someone. So Cheryl saw this and they decided to work out a deal so that he's finally able to see the kids again. And at first it was normal, but then he started acting weird about it. For example, when he found out that the kids are going to therapy, he tells her that he doesn't believe in it, that therapists are just people who are going to put you medication because they want money. And then there's a time where he's driving around with the twins. They were 9 years old at this point, and he gives them BB guns. And he's driving around while they're shooting a road sign. And when he was questioned about it, he said that it wasn't a big deal. There was no one in the road, so everything is cool, So because Cheryl believes that Klete is putting the kids in danger, they start again, another custody battle. And this time, Keller was being completely different than the way he acted before. Because before, he would take responsibility, he would accept the mistakes that he made, and he would talk about how he wanted to do better and how he was doing his best to move on. But now he was saying that he was a victim of his ex-wife, and that everything that happened in the past, all the mistakes that he did, they were just bumps in the road. The judge obviously doesn't buy it, but because he had a stable job and he had a stable income, he's allowed to see the kids through supervised visitations, and also he can spend 1 weekend a month with them. It wasn't exactly what either of them wanted, but it seemed to be a compromise that worked for the time being. And it was doing fine until 2020. When the pandemic started, most of the friends that Keller had noticed that he was getting more political. And he was being aggressive about it. For almost a whole year, he made a bunch of posts talking about how much he hated masks and how he was opposed all of the restrictions that we had during the pandemic. And obviously he was vocal about how much he supported Trump and how he liked every decision that he made. And then in a recent interview that one of his friends did, he said that he tried to give like a counterpoint or a different perspective to one of the posts that he made. And instead of just talking about it, Klete decides to message him directly and tell him to delete the comment, and if he ever did that again, he will block him. So Klete was basically being in a echo chamber. He was talking to people that thought the exact same things that he did. He victimized himself as a white man. He thought that everyone around him was against him. And this mentality got reinforced in November 2020 when he went to Washington with his girlfriend. He went to a march to protest the election results. So basically, he was being in the far right more and more every day. The thing that finally pushed him over the edge was in December 18, 2020, when Cheryl made a call to the sheriff's office in North Carolina, because when Klete arrived for his scheduled visitation, one of the twins refused to see him, and that immediately made him angry. He starts insulting everyone, and the kids defended the mother, right? And that made him way angrier than before. And in the end, he just leaves, and no one knows where he was until 16 days later. Keller flew to Washington to listen to Trump talk in the Washington Monument, which is where they were before they stormed the Capitol. He was wearing a 2018 US Olympic team jacket. It wasn't his. He didn't swim that year, so nobody knows how he got a hold of it. But basically, after Trump's speech, they stormed into the Capitol. They vandalized stuff. And everything that we already know that happened. So I'm not gonna go in depth in the attack itself, but basically he stood out a lot because he was 6'6". Everyone else was a short man, a short angry man, so it was easy to recognize him. A reporter named Julio Rosas posted a video on Twitter, the video that you're watching right now. He's also wearing the Olympic jacket. I don't know why he would do that, because like I don't know, that's such a dumb decision. But because of that video, he was identified by swimmers and coaches and basically anyone that he competed with or against throughout his career. And within the first 24 hours after the attack, he does his best to not get caught. You know, like he destroys his cell phone and the memory card, and he throws away the jacket that he had, and also he deletes all of his social media accounts. And 2 weeks later, after the attack, he was charged in the US District Court in Washington. And a day after this, he decides to finally surrender himself to the authorities. And then before I keep going, I just have to tell you, I'm not that smart. I wasn't able to fully understand like what was going on. I tried to read the court case, but I don't know, I don't understand it. So I read articles that kind of summarize it and like explain it. But basically, to my understanding, he did a deal where he pleaded guilty to a charge of obstructing an official proceeding, and he said that he was gonna cooperate in the investigation and that he was gonna testify for whatever they needed help with. And because of that, the court decided to drop 1 felony and 5 misdemeanors. And basically, he's not going to be sentenced at all until he's done cooperating with the government. So to this day, he still hasn't been in prison at all. He's working in the same residential real estate firm that he was before, and basically he's living a normal life, except that he's not able to see his kids anymore. And yeah, that's pretty much all we know so far. Right now, I'm putting the statements that the people in his life has said, because everyone was surprised about what happened. Like, nobody saw this coming. They knew that he was struggling with mental health, but nobody predicted this. And even then, there were some people who agree with his decision. Okay, thank you for watching the whole thing. I hope you liked it. If you want to support me, you can look in the description for the links to my other social media accounts, OnlyFans, Cameo, Instagram, whatever. I don't know, bitch. Just look in there if you're interested in watching it.